annual career conversation in politics. And each year we do focus on a different theme. There are, as many of you may know, a lot of different applicable outcomes for our majors because of the skill sets. And this year our focus, titled Divergent Paths, is looking at our alums who've gone into some aspect of business. Maybe not business, qua business, meaning just to pursue business, but because their skill set, their area of interest, etc., is a good fit. So today we have 4 panelists who are here. We have over on the your far right, my far left, Nathan Shive, who is here, and he is a financial representative. We have Jason Miller, who is newly with the National Journal Group as a researcher, and we have Courtney Lancaster here as well, who works as a retail management trainee at Hannaford. And then we also have up on the screen Sadie Sumner, and she is coming to us from France. So that's why she's here on the screen. We couldn't quite fly her over for this, but she is going to speak about her experiences working as a management level person with a bike tour company. And hopefully a lot of opportunity for you to learn whether you're about to graduate and thinking about what you're going to maybe do next, or how you might parlay these things into your next stage of life, or whether you're thinking about what can you do here now while you're at Messiah to help test out and explore your vocation. Before we do get to the panel, I do just want to take a brief moment, and I'm going to show you here actually 2 things real quick. Number one, because the goal is to try to help you find some coherence within a topic, I want to make sure that people are aware that this isn't the only thing. We're not trying to sell this as the only track, but we find that the coherent panel usually will be more effective. But up on the screen you can see that we have the predominant comment types of fields. As you can see, business is one, nonprofit, government, but also people who go into private law, service, education, and internships. And we do have some resources connected on the resource link of our department webpage, which will show you how to think through some of these options, and certainly you can do that with your advisors as well. And then the other piece I'd just like to highlight your attention to, as we're just coming off of Advising Week, is our Career and Professional Development Plan, which focuses on 4 different stages: the assess, explore, experience, and transition. So that again, as you go through your time here at Messiah, you should be thinking about kind of stage-appropriate questions, testing out. Maybe it's in service, maybe it's in an internship, maybe it's just shadowing. Shadowing is a great, inexpensive way to try out, do you really like this type of option, or perhaps not so much. So this is a resource that we have on our website that's available for all of our advisees as well directly, with some tips of things to do depending on whether you're a first-year student or perhaps a junior or ready to graduate. So I just want to take a couple moments to highlight those pieces. And now, really for what all of you are here, is our panel. And so I'd like to open things up. And I don't know if anybody has a hankering to go first, or...
I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay. All right, my name is Courtney Lancaster. I was a 2009 graduate of Messiah, so not too long ago. My major obviously was in politics. I think that I had 8 classes with Dr. Lerman. I don't know, enough to get a T-shirt. And my minor was in criminal justice. And I thought that after 4 years I would go into government. I'm originally from Maine, so the thought was to go back to Maine and probably end up in government somewhere up there. So after I graduated, I immediately enrolled in a public policy master's program at the Muskie School of Public Service in Portland, Maine. It's part of USM's campus, University of Southern Maine. And I proceeded to get my master's in public policy and finance management. That whole time, in that program, I worked for Hannaford Brothers, doing a lot of their finances and their bookkeeping. And when my master's degree ended, I had the option to go back into government or to stay with Hannaford Brothers in this retail management training program. And I weighed my options carefully, and it is a hard program to get into, so I wasn't sure that I would be fit for the job in the first place. But I did apply, and I got in. And the last year I have spent learning how to manage a grocery store. That's what Hannaford Brothers is, a grocery store in New England. And that's where I've been for the last year. Yeah, sure.
All right. I'm Jason Miller. I also graduated in 2009 with Courtney. I started out as an economics major and took a couple politics classes and got really excited about the different skills that I would learn in that, coupled with economics, and picked that up as a major. After college, I spent some time searching for a job, and in October 2009, I joined Rare Conservation. So it's an international conservation organization, but instead of focusing on the science behind conservation, they're into social marketing and marketing for behavior change and achieving conservation results through human behavior change. And I was really kind of inspired by that model and joined and spent 2.5 years there. I started in the finance department as a finance coordinator. I was making basic accounting entries, doing some other small tasks. When some opportunities presented themselves, I also jumped into some strategy management and budget management, budget development, and by the time I left, I was in charge of managing and adjusting a $16 million budget, which was quite overwhelming, but a great experience and a lot of fun. I joined the National Journal Group in February 2012, so I've been there for 2 months now. I joined the Best Practice Research team as a research analyst, and our team works to discover common challenges in our membership, and we search for best practice solutions to these common challenges, and then present these to our membership in the form of case studies annually. So that's where I'm at now. And
first of all, I'd like to apologize to all of you who were expecting to see Tony Dungy. He couldn't make it. I'm filling in. Tony and I get mixed up a lot. We have the same haircut. But anyway, my name's Nate Shive. I'm a 1992 graduate of Messiah. Very happy to be here. I'm here, I think, to provide some age balance or something here, I don't know. But I'm the token middle-aged bald guy. I won't give you a whole lot of my background because, as I said to Dr. Lauerman when we were scheduling this, never give a political science major an open microphone because this could go on for a while. So I'll try to keep it brief. You can read about the rest of it in my memoirs, I suppose. But as I said, graduated in '92. I initially planned on pursuing a career in broadcasting, and tried that out for a while with mixed success. I found that I had a face for radio and a voice for newspaper, so that kind of came to a conclusion fairly soon. Plus, it was kind of hard to make it by at $5 an hour. So pursued some other careers. Again, cutting the story very short, I ended up at an architecture firm where I was a marketing director for about 12 years. And during that time, my church had just purchased some land, and I missed a meeting or something, and I found out the next day I'd been named church treasurer. That was how I lost my hair, in case any of you are wondering. But so I was a church treasurer for 9 years during a building project and a 12-lot subdivision and everything else. So that was an interesting time in my life. But during that, people figured I was a church treasurer, so I must know something about finances. So they were always coming to me with their financial questions, what kind of life insurance they should get, or how they should invest their 401k and things of that nature. And I enjoyed helping them. I enjoyed being a resource. I really had no idea what I was talking about, but I wanted to try to help them out as best I could. And so when I got to a point with the architecture firm that I figured I'd reached my ceiling there, I thought, well, I enjoy helping people with their finances. I like being a resource for them. I might as well find a place where I can get paid for doing that. And so I ended up with MetLife and moved from being a representative, a financial rep, which I still do for my own clients, but now I'm an agency director, and I have a team of advisors that I'm helping now to train them to do what I did. Just as an aside, the MetLife agency I'm with, Penwood Financial Group, we're headquartered in Allentown, but we have an office right down the road here in Camp Hill by Holy Spirit Hospital. And we are hiring. In fact, we just hired some interns for the summer, including Messiah. I believe he's going to be a senior, Travis Eversole. I don't think he's here, but I don't know if anybody knows Travis or not, but he's going to be interning in our Camp Hill office this summer. We're very happy about that. And I'm more than happy to talk to any of you, look at your resume. If you wanted to shadow me in the Allentown office or in our Scranton office or Lansdale or Lewisburg or here in Camp Hill, I'd be happy to set that up for you. Have you meet with our team there, our managers, our recruiters, and so forth, and tell you more about the career path in that regard. So more than happy to help in that regard. But kind of what I've learned in my career is something I actually learned my freshman year in college. Heard this as a speaker at a chapel, it may have been, or something, but somebody, and I think they were quoting Jack Nicklaus, oddly enough, as we get towards the Masters here. That's Nicklaus the golfer, not Nicholson, the crazy actor, Jack Nicklaus. He allegedly said, "Secret to happiness is find something that you'll do for nothing and find somebody to pay you to do it." And as cliche as that may be, that's pretty good advice. If you can find something that you'll do for nothing and then find somebody to pay you to do it, you'll have a very satisfying career. And that was something I found with MetLife. Being a financial advisor, again, enjoyed helping people, now enjoy helping new advisors, and I can make a pretty decent living doing that. But beyond that, just looking back towards how things have fallen together in my life, and one thing I'd really encourage all of you to look at, beyond just your career, but find something that's bigger than yourself to get involved with. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but because I know a lot of you have been involved maybe with short-term missions projects or nonprofit organizations, things of that nature. For me, it was my church building. Again, spent 9 years of my life, very late night meetings and long drawn out, you know how committee meetings are, especially when the church is involved, and lots of personalities and so forth. But there's a building sitting just west of Allentown that I had a big part in putting there. And when you're involved in something like that, and then you go back to your regular life, your regular career, and things aren't maybe going as well as they should be, you can say, hey, I may be having a bad day or a bad week or a bad quarter, but there's something I did that I was a part of that was good for everybody. And so I really encourage everybody to get involved in something like that, again, beyond yourself, beyond just focusing on your career. And Messiah, of course, presents a lot of opportunities for that. Spring break service projects, things of that nature. It's something you should definitely look into. And again, not to give you my whole biography, but as I look back, and I was talking to my daughters here in the back row. I brought her so I'd have at least one supporter in the crowd here. But Maggie's 13, she's in 8th grade, and she's on spring break, and this is probably not how she envisioned spending her spring break, but I'm glad she's here. But she and I were talking on the way down and kind of going back, and I look back all these chains of events, what got me to where I am today in terms of a career, and it's like one thing naturally followed another, and there's things that happen to you that don't always make sense. That you're like, okay, why is this happening? God, what's going on here? Why did you do this? Why am I going through this, and so forth? But I look back, and I'm fortunate at the stage I am now where I can look back at a lot of those happenings and say, there was a reason for that. Now I see why. Now I see why my family had to relocate back when I was in 10th grade or going into 10th grade. Moving like 500 miles away to a place we had no connection to. And now I look back and I see things like that made sense. And I was involved with the radio station here at Messiah WVMM. I was one of the founding directors. And then I was politely told at the end of my junior year not to come back for my senior year because we had some personality conflicts. And that was disappointing to say the least, but it opened the door for me to be involved in other things that I benefited from. And so my other piece of advice, I guess, is just to follow God's lead. Follow, trust that there is a God who loves us and who wants the best for us, and He has a master plan that not all of us see right at the beginning. And things that different job changes I went through prior to coming to MetLife, different projects I was involved with that didn't turn out as I expected to, but I look back and I say I learned from each of those events and each of those disappointments. And part of that is even learning to accept rejection. As a financial advisor, I'm expected, or when I started, I was expected to meet with 12 to 15 people a week. A lot of outbound calls, a lot of what we call prospecting. And what does that lead to? A lot of rejection. For whatever reason, people don't want to meet with me, and sometimes it's good reasons, or sometimes it's not. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of rejection in that, and you have to learn to accept that. But you grow from that, and you become better at what you do. If I can use, there's a basketball tournament going on right now. Some of you might have heard about. There's, I guess, a game at some unearthly hour tonight, that some championship or something that some of you may be following. But March Madness, we call it. And I played a little basketball when I was here. I played rec sports. I was on a team my senior year called a 7 and a scrub. No prizes for guessing who the scrub was. But then as my daughter here, as she was getting old enough to play recreational basketball in our youth league where we live, they were desperate one year. They said, we need to have another coach or we're going to have to cut some players. And so I went to the coordinator. I said, well, look, I could never really play that well. I'm old, I'm slow. I just tore my Achilles tendon earlier that year. But if you're that desperate, I'll do it. And he said, fine, we'll take anybody who's vertical and breathing pretty much. And if you're dealing with youth sports, and I'm sure some of you have done this, and maybe even some of you played it when you were younger, when you're playing on a youth team, whether it's Little League or basketball or Pop Warner football or whatever, there's all kinds of different levels of skill. There's, the jock kids who have been playing this since they could walk, and there's the other kids who are just there because their parents want them out of the house for a couple hours. We've all seen that, I'm sure, at different levels. And that's what I had to deal with in the basketball league. When, how old were you, Maggie? 5th grade, I think, when we started. 5th and 6th grade girls, so a whole wide range of talent and skill there. But I found that there were 5 skills, 5 abilities that I could teach to my players and say, these are 5 things that you can do. Very symmetrical because there's 5 basketball players on the floor. 5 players on the floor function as one single unit. Anybody seen that movie? What, before your time? Hoosiers, greatest movie ever made? No? Nothing? Okay, never mind. Showing my age, I'm sorry. But 5 things that every player can do. And I'd say you can hustle. I want you to hustle on every play. I want you to run up and down the court. Anybody can do that. I want you to stay in motion. Don't stand still on offense. Move around, make the players work, and then learn. Third thing is to learn. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from stuff that happens. This isn't the NBA here. This is not the WNBA or the NCAA. But have fun. Learn from your mistakes. Work as a team, and learn to play defense. Admittedly, that's more of a learned skill. But I would still say, okay, if we're playing man-to-man, stay with your man. If we're playing zone, you stay in your zone. Just anybody can do that. Just stay with the player you're guarding. And where am I going with this, you're all wondering, and you're wondering if there's any pizza left in the back as well. I didn't have any yet, so there's a few slices there. But with those 5 skills, those are 5 things I think all of you can apply to your career going forward. And just to go back over them, when I talk about hustle, work harder than everybody else. There's no limitations on it. Work hard, put in the extra hours, put in the extra mile, whatever you have to do to get the job done. There's no reason you can't do that. No matter how new or inexperienced you might be, or however experienced you are, you can still put in the hours and work hard. And when I talk about motion, when I'm saying basketball players, stay in motion. Don't just stand there on offense. Hey, give me the ball. Move around. Try the same thing in your career. Don't stand still. If you stand still, people are going to pass you. Continue to learn and develop your skills, which leads into the next one. You're learning, like I said, in basketball, learn from the mistakes you make. Learn in basketball, or learn in your career, learning from your manager, learning from your mentors, learning from your mistakes. Sorry for the alliteration there, but that's how it came to me. Learn from the mistakes that you make. Learn and grow from it. Grow from different setbacks that happen to you. Again, no limitations on this, no reason why you can't do anything like this in your career. The 4th item is teamwork. Use every resource you have. And then as you develop in your career, become a resource. Courtney, you're in management, so you've gone up through the program, and now you can be a resource to other people as you become a manager and a mentor to them as well. So work as a team. There's nothing more important than the team, whatever that team framework is. And it's again a cliche, but being a team player and being a resource for others, just as they were a resource for you. And the last one on defense, and this one's kind of my favorite when I translate it into a career path, partly because in basketball I never had much of a shot, but I could at least hustle on defense and at least harass the players as much as I could. Protect what you built. As you build a career, protect it, whatever manner of integrity or whatever manner of resources you have, protect what you've built and continue to build it. Don't let anybody take it away from you. So again, very brief, and hopefully that wasn't too tedious for you, but 5 things that I think any one of you can apply to your career search and your career goals going forward. One last item I just wanted to throw in for the political science majors here. I think there's several of you here, and of course we have Dr. Harles here and Dr. Lauerman. So those of you that are studying political science, whatever career path you go to, I'd strongly encourage you, if you have the opportunity, and you will, to volunteer to serve on someone's campaign. Every year is an election year. Every year there's primaries, every year there's somebody running for office, even if it's for county sheriff or selectman or township commissioner up to congressman, senator, president, whatever. Volunteer to work on a campaign, even if it's just making phone calls, even if it's going door to door with the candidate or something like that. It'll be a very valuable experience for you. You might actually like it. You might decide, hey, this would be a good opportunity for me to pursue my degree and develop things further as a career in political science, and something to consider there. But if nothing else, it'll be a good positive experience learning how to work with different types of people, maybe dealing with a little bit of rejection too if you're making phone calls. A lot of us, I'm sure, have been on the receiving end of those phone calls. Hi, I'm calling from the campaign for John Harles for Senate. Click, We've all seen stuff like that happen, so use that as an opportunity to get some positive experience learning how to work with different people, build some networks in your community. Again, kind of an aside, but put your degree to work in that respect, just as a volunteer. Candidates will always need someone to help out on their campaigns, and again, it may prove to be a very profitable experience for you. So that's my story, and hopefully some advice there that you might find helpful, but look forward to talking to any of you further and any questions you might have.
Great, okay. Well, my name is Sadie Soner. I graduated from Messiah in 2008, and while I was still in school, I did 2 internships that really kind of pushed me into France, actually. One of them was with a nonprofit organization that, I love the organization, I love their mission, but I wasn't very happy with the work. And the other one was with the County Commissioner's Office of Pennsylvania. Again, they treated me like I was one of them. They didn't treat me like an intern, but I decided that I wanted to do something a little out of the ordinary, even if it was just for a short period of time. And I didn't necessarily want to go into government work right away or any sort of political work. So when I was a senior, I applied for a tour guide position in Paris with the bicycle company that I still work with, and I got accepted. Originally, it was only a 3-month contract, and I decided that was far too short of time to pick myself up and move to France. So I went out on a limb and I applied as an au pair, which is basically a fancy word for nanny. And I'm the last person in the world you would ever want to let watch your kids. I've never liked kids, but I figured I can suck it up, I can do it, I want to go to France. So I found a great family. They lived just outside of Paris, it worked out really well. I actually ended up falling in love with their 2 girls. I still didn't necessarily like the job, but I got along with it and it taught me a lot. And I stayed with them for a year, and when they asked me if I wanted to come back, I was just as surprised as they were, and I said yes, absolutely. And even though my contract with the tour guiding company only lasted for 3 months, I let my boss know that I was still available, and I still really enjoyed that job, and I could work over the winter, and I could give tours in snow and rain, and he accepted. And I kind of did this weird part-time thing for about a year and a half, watching the girls and taking French classes and tour guiding and traveling, and it was a very bohemian lifestyle that I wouldn't have planned out for myself, but it turned to work out well. And while I was studying, I was taking more French classes. When I graduated from Messiah, I had a degree in politics, but also in French, but my French was not really up to par. And after 2 years of French classes, I managed to achieve the C1 level of French, which is basically a European standard. The highest goes to C2, and that's, like I said, the highest, it's very philosophical, and there's a lot of longer text to read, so I was happy with my C1 level. That basically means that I can enter into a master's program here, any other school if I want to. And I continued working with this bike tour guiding company. So about almost 2 years into it, they offered me a management position, and I accepted it right away without hesitation. And so my lifestyle in the last 6 to 8 months has changed from riding around in the sun on a bicycle to sitting behind a desk and answering emails and organizing tours. But it's still a company that I believe in, and it's a job that I love. I get to meet people from all over the world every day. Last week I was representing our company at a conference where we were helping tour operators from around the world get to know us and build a relationship with them so that they can send clients to us. I've traveled quite a bit myself since I've been over here, and it's a job that is different every single day. And it's a job that I feel like I never would have had if I hadn't already done my 2 very serious, very straightforward, very typical internships, which were also great, but definitely led me to where I am now.
All right, maybe take a couple questions that I have before we open up for the students here. And some of you have emphasized in a little bit more depth some of the things about your experience here at Messiah. But I'm wondering if you maybe can make another pass around in terms of things like study abroad, maybe say a little bit more about the nature of the internships, just a bit here, so students can think about how they might use that to build their resume and their experience.
And then when I was working on my master's degree, the Muskie Institute also does research in public policy for the state of Maine and New England. And I was working on the aging worker initiative because Mainers, they tend to be older, and we want to employ them, and we want employers to want to employ them. So those were two big internships that I worked on. And I'd say, you know, some of the biggest things that you can take away from internships that you can't take away from, you know, classwork is learning, as Nate said, learning how to work in groups, learning how to be a team player, learning how to advocate for yourself. Learning how to advocate for yourself is a huge one, especially when you're young. In the role that I'm in now, I'm going to be, as of a few months from now, managing 100 to 200 associates in a multi-million-dollar grocery store. And at the age of 25, that's a hard thing to do sometimes when you have people who have worked in that store for 30 years and they see somebody come in brand new and they have to listen to you. So I'd say learning how to advocate for yourself. You might be young, you might not know it all, but your opinion matters, and learning how to have a voice. Let's see, networking is also huge. Networking, obviously in politics, but I worked for Hanford Brothers before I took on this permanent role with them, and I would say that, you know, that's part of the reason why I was able to be successful in the interview process, the 3-day interview process. I networked, I knew a lot about the company, and that'll get you far.
So at Messiah, I had 2 different internships. My first internship was with Tim Engel at Smith Barney. He was a financial planner.
Graduated with me.
Graduated with you. And he,
Tim very well.
yeah, and so what I did with him was a lot of research, I had got some experience in Excel, learning how to use spreadsheets, working in an office, having really not very well-defined deliverables, or at least a defined idea, but not a defined route on how to get there. And so working through projects like that where you have, you know, a senior-most bright idea, and he or she has to figure out how to implement it, and they kind of give it to you and say, all right, figure out how to implement this. And you know, so internships and opportunities like that, I think, really provide, you know, that project-based creative learning opportunity. I also worked with the Commissioner's Office at Dauphin County, where I worked with 2 or 3 different, mostly with 2 different commissioners, and then a couple other department heads. And that kind of gave me the experience of working with multiple kind of bosses and managing time effectively, and trying to understand, okay, how can I produce deliverables for this person or that person in a timely manner. I want to echo, I guess, what Courtney and they said earlier about teamwork and the ability to work in a team, work in a group is such a big part of working in the real world, is being able to contribute, find what part of the group dynamic you're best at, and being ready to contribute when the opportunity arises.
My situation is a little different. I actually went to high school in South Africa. My parents were missionaries there, so I spent 7 years overseas. So I kind of I was immersed in a mission situation and an overseas situation. So benefited, I think, from that experience and got to see a lot of things on the ground there. I never did any internships at Messiah. You actually have to have halfway decent grades to do that. My GPA resembled more of a Hall of Fame earned run average for those of you who know baseball, so I never really got into any internships. But I will say, you know, I think the next book I'm going to write may be, which maybe never, but maybe something based on the different jobs I had leading up to where I am now. But the first job I had after my freshman year here at Messiah was working in a seafood department at a Super Fresh, one of Courtney's competitors, but in Westminster, Maryland. You can believe I had a lot of friends when I got home after work. You know, they knew I was coming a block away, but I was working in the seafood department, and my boss, the seafood manager, wasn't too much older than me, but he'd been in the Navy, and he, you know, didn't really have the world's greatest set of social skills. But one thing he told me from day one is, he said, somebody walks up to the seafood counter, and, you know, he'd been in a supermarket, you know, you got the seafood department there. Someone walks up to it, never say, "Can I help you?" That's the most odious, you know, horrible thing to say to people. You know, get them engaged in a conversation, start talking to them. You know, "How are you today, sir?" "Oh, that's a very very nice dress you have on, ma'am, or whatever, how's the weather outside? Get them talking, get them engaged. The more they talk, the closer they'll come. The closer they come, the more likely they are to actually buy something. Get them engaged in the process, and that's a practice I still try to use today. I meet with someone in their home, and I'll see pictures on the wall. Are those your kids, your grandchildren? That's a very nice-looking baby boy you have. Oh, it's a girl, I'm sorry. But, get them engaged in the process and get them talking. And every job you have, every experience you have, no matter how low level you may think it is being, and believe me, there isn't too much lower than being an assistant in a seafood department in a supermarket in the height of summer. It's about as low as you can get. And but even so, you can learn from all these experiences you have, whether it's in your major, out of your major, something you never plan on doing again. Something else I did the following 2 summers, I actually stayed on campus here at Messiah, worked in the conference services department. Kathy Schaefer, she was Kathy Vanderploot then, some of you may know her. She's director of operations now, or some big highfalutin title here, but she was my boss for those 2 summers. Again, working with people. We spent maybe half our time over in the basement of Hoffman over here doing laundry, linens for people. That was a lot of fun, but still, getting jobs done, working with people, taking them to the airport, taking them back from the airport. Yeah, a lot of things that I learned and benefited from that experience. So look, any experience you have, any job, whether it's an internship or a summer job or just something you're desperate, you need the money and you end up washing cars for the summer, learn from that, take something positive from that and build on that for your next step in your career.
So I mentioned that my first internship at Messiah was a nonprofit organization, and that taught me a lot about being a self-starter. They had just changed their management when I started with them. They didn't have a lot of projects for me. They didn't seem to have a lot of direction. So I read up a lot of materials about the organization, and I found projects for myself, and I helped them to create a website, and all of those things have become useful, both being a guide, but especially as a manager. This past summer, I had to create 2 new tours from AZ, so finding out which area of the city people are most interested in, doing almost kind of like a mock survey, if you will, and planning out the itinerary, planning out the route, finding out the information, and just putting it together, making it all happen. Again, being a self-starter and following through with your projects. I was also in charge of hiring this season, and we just hired 30 new individuals, and it doesn't stop once they're hired, and you have to train them, and again, just following through with that, and just being able to work as a team with your colleagues, but also knowing, just walking into work and knowing what you have to get done during the day, and being able to do it without having somebody to tell you, this is what you need to do. Finding work is what my dad used to say, there's always work to do, just find it. And that has helped me enormously, and both of my internships really taught me how to do that. I did do a study abroad. When I was a junior, I went to Strasbourg, not out of choice because it was the only program offered at the time. I probably never would have gone there, but I loved it. It's a very tiny city compared to Paris, and it used to be part of Germany, so there was a lot of German spoken, and there was a lot of a mix of German and French spoken. That also taught me to keep an open mind, taught me a lot of different ways to communicate with people besides just a verbal language. And that was my first experience staying in a host family, and that definitely helped me to adapt better to my host family that I stayed with as an au pair, and I think that helped me to maintain a better relationship with them because I am somebody who's rather independent, and living in somebody else's house for a long period of time can be difficult, and that was definitely a challenge, but it made my stay that much better, and it completely immersed me in the culture. I was able to practice my French every night, and it gave me the taste for the country, and it let me know that I wanted to come back and live in France for a certain period of time. I meet a lot of new people every single day, probably 50 new faces, and I'd say at least 25 of them say, you're so lucky you get to live over here and do what you want, and I wish I could do that. And my response is, do it. Do it. I know a lot of people have things holding them back. They have families and they have jobs, but I knew this was something I wanted to do, and I found a way to do it, and it was not a conventional route, but I'm so happy that I did.
All right, well, let's open things up. Some of you may have some questions, broad or specific. And if you can, when you offer it, project a bit, just so we can make sure Sadie hears, as well as everyone else in the room.
One at a time.
Okay, I'll try to. Now, this is a risky question because I don't know what the answer is. And they always tell you as a lawyer, you're not supposed to ask questions you don't know what the answer is going to be. But my question is this: none of you are involved in areas of occupation that are directly related to the study of politics. So my question is, are you happy that you made that choice of studying when you were an undergraduate? Or if you had it to do over again, would you rethink that choice and study something else?
Courtney, why don't you check that?
Oh, okay. And this isn't politically correct either. I very much would have gotten a politics degree. I think that in this department, you learn critical thinking. I think that we write more than a lot of departments. We have to, critically read, write. I know Dr. Curry had us read a whole book and sum it up in 2 pages. And honestly, like, I do a lot in work like that. You get a business plan this thick and you have to sum it up in a 2-pager. So I think there are a lot of transferable skills that the politics department offers. A lot of really talented faculty that give you what you need. There we go.
Yeah, I could probably echo the same thing in regard to the writing. I probably couldn't stress enough how important writing is in work and in business, and being concise and clear, and being able to take something large and put it into very, very few words, because the people that read it only have time to really read it in just maybe a minute or two. And so the writing aspect is so critical. The other thing that may be small, but I found very comforting was when I started my job with RARE and was working in an accounting system. It was really similar to SPSS. And so, when you go through your research methods and go through coding variables and assigning, variables to numbers, that's almost exactly how accounting is. And so I found it really transferable to take the logic of SPSS and apply it to our accounting system. And so if you think that you might never use it again, your knowledge of that, SPSS isn't the only place you're going to find that kind of computer-based logic language.
And just, sorry, I'm going to interrupt for a second. And just because we're not in fields that are 100% politics, it's not that it doesn't show up in places. And I was telling Dr. Larman earlier, I was pulled from retail to work on a project regarding recyclable bag taxes. And our company wants to move toward a more sustainable image, because that's what's driving, the market. That's what customers want to see now. So they were like, well, you have a master's in public policy. Let's, where are these bills? What's the likelihood that the state of Massachusetts is going to see a bag tax in the next 2 years? How likely is it that the state of Maine is going to want to, do the same thing, and how are we going to have to adapt to that as a business? So that's currently what I'm doing. So my degree is in, I'm not just doing business.
As I get into middle age, my memory becomes more and more fragmented, but I do remember the first class I took with Dr. Harles. It was History of Political Thought over in Klein, on the 2nd floor or something. I don't know if you even have class over there anymore, but an old non-air conditioned room. And one of the first things he told us in our first class was, he explained, political science is often called the master science, because that's, without politics, without some kind of government structure, it all falls apart. So it all depends on having some type of political structure in place. And then we started, I guess, with Plato, if I remember right, and all the way up through the philosophers, and John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, John Stuart Mill, and so forth, Karl Marx, and all the way through, covering different levels of thought and the development of thought through the years. And having that kind of bird's eye view of things really, as Courtney and Jason said, really helps put things in perspective. And I'd add to that, as you become what I might call, at the risk of stereotyping, a professional, whether you're in law or medicine, or in my case, financial services, you become a part of you can join a professional organization. I work for architects. They have the American Institute of Architects, the AIA. in my present business, it's NAFA, the National Association of Insurance and Financial Professionals. We belong to that organization, we pay our dues, that organization looks out for us. They lobby state legislatures, Congress, and so forth to advance bills and laws that protect our industry. And having that type of knowledge of how the political system works, the political process works, is very helpful as you get into your profession and you become more involved in leadership roles in whatever career path you take. So certainly having that background, that understanding gives you, I think, a deeper appreciation of what's going on around you. The only thing I might have changed is I probably would have taken more classes from a business angle, probably more law classes. I only took one class with Dr. Morrison. I wish I'd had the opportunity to take more from him. Dr. Curry took a sabbatical my 1 year, so I missed out on taking a few classes with him. But still, if I'd taken a few more business, a few more law classes, that probably would have been helpful as I went forward. But still, I greatly appreciated the opportunity I have to take the classes I did take and to earn my degree.
I'm not gonna lie, politics doesn't enter into my job on a direct basis, but at the very least, it gave me a lot of knowledge that I wouldn't have had otherwise, which I use to relate with the people that I see on a regular basis. Most of our clients are American, but we have clients from all over the English-speaking world and really all over Europe and Asia as well. And people feel at home when you know something about their home. People are willing to open themselves up to you a little bit more when you can relate to them and say, I know a little bit about your country, or your capital, your president, this or that, and at the very least, politics opened me up to that. And just speaking with people in general, the debates that we had in class, defending your thought or opinion, that, I think that helps out in every job, but definitely in the industry of tourism, because you're talking all the time, all day to, again, people from all around the world, and that gives you more confidence, and people obviously enjoy having a confident leader, but it just makes you seem like a more well-rounded person as well.
Other questions?
I guess my question is, like, being a politics major working in business, there would probably be some learning curve or some things that you might have been missing. I'm curious as to how flexible employers were to you learning the process. Were there any major challenges starting out in a business company, or I'm just kind of interested in the learning curve, I guess.
Just let me repeat for Sadie, because you figure. Yeah, Andrew is asking about the learning curve, how much of one there is going into a business environment from studying politics and thinking about things or using skills, et cetera, in the way that we did.
I'll address, I think you also said in there somewhere that employers, if you're going into business, might see that you have a politics degree. And that was a concern of mine going into this business. And in my initial interview, I went through many. My very first one, I said, is this going to be a problem? And they said, no, it's not, not at all. And I think the lesson learned there is that employers want to see a well-rounded resume. They want to see the grades, but they also want to see the internships. And if you come at it with an open mind and you're willing to learn, in a position like mine, that's what they wanted. If they weren't at all frightened by the politics degree without any business. The second part of your question, sorry,
I guess, were there any major challenges when you first got there? Did you have to learn anything? You know what I mean? Accounting. You don't learn accounting as a politics major. Was there anything major that you had to learn, I guess?
For me, there were two things to learn. I would say the first was the accounting, the financials. A lot of my peers were from Cornell, who have they have a special program within their business department that focuses on grocery management. And they came into that very well prepared and had seen all the financial statements and had seen business plans before, and that was something that I kind of had to learn within the last year. It's doable. The other thing that I had to learn, which I kind of touched on earlier, is I really had to learn how to lead, how to have a voice, and I think a lot of that you do learn in internships when you get to do the work, but just having a voice and leading at a young age.
Yes, there was a little bit of a learning curve, I think, especially, so when I started at Rare, I was doing mostly accounting. And so I was in an accounting system pretty frequently. And, you know, to qualify, I had taken 2 basic accounting courses here, but because that was kind of the central focus of what I was doing there, it was, you know, a basic level accounting course times, you know, 10 or 20 because of the depth of it. And there is a learning curve, but I think a learning curve that employers are willing to accept if through the interview process you're able to display your ability to think critically, your ability to take you know, projects and be able to pick them apart and successfully put them back together in a coherent and well-constructed way. And so, you know, I think if you're apprehensive about it, finding ways to display that your ability to think critically, the way that you can, you know, have used politics to construct an argument or, you know, put together, you know, logic or, you know, and I think accounting is probably the, out of business, probably maybe the most rigorous and specialized thing. But, you know, the curve isn't so insurmountable that I don't think it's impossible to tackle. And I think you can tackle it quickly and successfully. I would say that there probably are some entry-level business courses or accounting courses, and there could be value in taking that as a kind of, you know, if you have 15 credits, take 18 one semester and take an extra class. I could you know, I would recommend that.
Jason put it well. There is always a learning curve, and as I mentioned earlier, you know, you have to keep learning and developing and growing in your business, whatever path you take. Otherwise, you'll get left behind because, you know, after you've been in your career 5, 10, 20 years, there'll be a new crop of people coming in who knows all the new tricks and all the new courses and everything else, all the new technology, and you'll be left behind if you're not keeping up with that. So there's always a learning curve. That being said, you know, when I'm hiring people and I'm interviewing them, I'm looking basically for someone who has a positive attitude and who's willing to learn. If they have those 2 things, I don't really care about the rest of the stuff. If they're willing to work, put the time in, learn the job, and maintain a good frame of mind, a good mindset, I should say, during the time, you know, they'll be very successful in this business and in really any business they decide to do. Young lady, Carolyn, is it? Biology major, right? My assistant is a biology major. She graduated not too long ago, so she's not much older than the rest of you. And she keeps my team in line, all of whom are older than her, but she's in charge. Even when I'm there, she's in charge. And she knows how to handle the different personalities and to keep everybody, you know, on track and get all their paperwork taken care of and everything else. So those are the types of skills I look for in hiring and reviewing resumes and so forth. Certainly having a degree is important. I think everybody in this crowd, either you're going to get one or you have one already, so you want to make sure you finish your degree. That'll count for a lot. But the specific field it's in, I don't think this is as much a concern to employers right now. They're looking for more of the intangibles, and as we mentioned earlier, any kind of outside experience you have, any kind of, not even necessarily internship, but any kind of travel that you might have done or any kind of summer work, you know, things that you use to supplement your resume beyond just your transcript, I think will go a long way towards landing a good position.
My biggest learning curve was definitely the language, trying to speak French. I took classes in high school and I took classes in college, but you know, besides listening to Dr. Hall's trying to speak a few words of Rousseau, I was kind of out there on my own, thrown out into the wild streets of Paris, and it was definitely a learning curve. And what you have to realize with different languages, with new jobs, with anything that seems like a challenge to you is you have to realize that you're going to make mistakes, and that'll just help you learn faster. I knew right away that I was never going to speak perfect French ever in my life. I would never be considered completely bilingual, and I was always going to make mistakes. And once I got over that, and once I didn't have any fear anymore to go to the grocery store and ask for something and make it a feminine noun when it was masculine or something silly like that, I got a lot better, and I made lots of mistakes, and people corrected me, and I didn't take it the wrong way. I took it as constructive criticism, and I got better. As far as my employer, they were very helpful, and they did account for the learning curve, but again, there are a lot of things that I had to learn on my own. gave me a scheduling system and online software and said, figure it out. You have 30 people to put into a schedule for 2 weeks, so do it. And you kind of mess around with it a little bit, you spend a couple hours, you might want to slam your head against the wall a couple times, but you figure it out and you do it. And being a self-starter and being able to work under conditions like that is very important.
All right, I want to hold some of the balance of questions that they may have. Our panelists, at least some of them, are able to hang around at the end. But we do have a special presentation as well to continue with. And Abby Book, who is one of the career coaches in our Career Center, is going to talk to us a little bit today about LinkedIn. Probably most of you are aware of LinkedIn itself. Some of you, how many of you have even a basic profile at this point? So what she's going to talk to us about is how to ramp that up and maybe think a little bit more critically about how to use LinkedIn and use it in a more sort of savvy way.
Hi, I'm Abby. I'm so glad to be here. I was really excited to hear the things that you guys are saying because they're all things that we try to stress to students in the Career Center, things like doing an internship, studying abroad, transferable skills, how your major can translate into careers. And I think that you mentioned, Courtney, networking, and that's super important in getting a job and thinking about your future. And one of the #1 resources for networking is LinkedIn, and I'm excited that some of you do have a LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is not like Facebook. When you think of social media, I know people usually think of Facebook. I call LinkedIn the professional Facebook. You're not going to talk about what you had for dinner, what your pet hamster did on LinkedIn. It's very much professional in nature. There aren't even any status updates. So I could probably talk about LinkedIn for 10 hours, and I have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to give you a very quick overview of it. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to meet with you about LinkedIn. I'll have actual, half-hour to an hour appointments with students about their LinkedIn profile. So feel free to call the Career Center at extension 6016 and talk to Therese right there, and meet with me or any one of our career coaches about LinkedIn. So that being said, let me jump right into this here. I'm going to go back and forth from the slideshow and our website. So now that we're on the slideshow. Okay, the first thing you want to do when you get started with LinkedIn is to create a profile. And I want to show you a resource to start with that. So let me go back here. Okay, if you go to the Career Center's website, and then click on this networking link right here in the center of our website. We have a lot of great resources about networking in general. We have a cute little video here about networking. If you scroll down, we have some tips about going to receptions and networking cards. We also have a link to LinkedIn. So if you click on this link, it will take you to a tutorial how to get started, how to set up your profile. It is pretty easy. I don't think you actually need to use this to set up on LinkedIn, but you certainly are welcome to. There's also lots of great little webinars on here that can tell you how to use LinkedIn. So that's there. Okay, we talked about this already. It's not Facebook. It's a professional networking site. Things that you want to do when you start are make sure that your profile is complete before you actually start going out and connecting with people. Things that will make your profile more complete are a picture. Make sure it's a professional picture. It doesn't have to be taken professionally, but just a headshot, not yourself laying on the beach, but a professional looking picture. You want to enter information from your resume. And then you can also ask people to recommend you virtually on LinkedIn. So they'll send a little 1 or 2 sentence blurb about you, and that's called a recommendation. And that makes your profile complete. 2 important reasons to complete your profile on LinkedIn are, #1, you'll be more attractive on LinkedIn when you send your LinkedIn URL to prospective employers. But also, If an employer is Googling you, and believe me, they do, they will look for you online, you will pop up quicker if you have a complete LinkedIn profile. So if there are 10 Abby books in the world, if I have the most complete LinkedIn profile of all the other 9 Abby books, I'll be the top one that comes up when someone Google searches me, which is kind of neat. So once your profile is complete, you can start connecting with others. Connect with people you know, friends, family, professors. Once you start connecting, you can then see who your connections are connected to and then connect with them. So that's how you start reaching out through LinkedIn. Okay, there's a couple different features of LinkedIn. I'm going to breeze through them really quick, but again, feel free to contact me with any questions. I'm going to go back here to LinkedIn, and I'll show you my LinkedIn page so that we can look at some of these features. Oops. That's your LinkedIn profile. Do you mind if I use your page, Robin? For some reason, I got to yours instead of mine.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I probably logged it.
Yeah.
That's
Is
fine.
that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is Robin's page instead of mine for some reason, but we'll go with it. That works. Whatever you pick up here at the top, groups, jobs, companies, that's what your search box over here will come to. So if you click on the Groups tab right here, that changed your search box to groups. You want to start joining professional groups. That's one of the first things I would tell you to do on LinkedIn. You can join groups that relate to your interests, and there's millions of LinkedIn groups. I would just start typing a keyword in this group box, like I'm going to type in politics. And there's all sorts of politics virtual groups here on LinkedIn that you can connect with. I'd also join the Messiah College Professional Network, which Robin joined. And I'm going to click on this to show you what features a group can do. So we are here in the Messiah College group page. Any sort of discussion, okay, you know what, maybe I can get back to me now. Sorry about this. Okay, now on me. Crazy. Okay. So here are all my groups that I'm in. Once you're in a group, you can contact any member that is in that group. So one group that I would join is the Messiah College Professional Network. These are students and alums and professors and staff here at Messiah College. And within this group, people can start a discussion. They can put a job that they have on. This is true for any group. Or my favorite feature is this Members tab. So if you click on the Members tab of any group you're in, you'll see all the members of the group. Some groups have over 20,000 members, and you may think, how is that going to help me in my career? That's too many people to connect with. The neat thing is that because you're a member in that group, you have a chance to interact with all of those 20,000 individuals. So for this group, we have over 1,500. I can type in a keyword here, like politics. And I can see which alums in this group are in the political science field, and then I can connect with them through LinkedIn. You can use this for grad school searches. If you're thinking of going to a certain grad school, you can type the grad school name in and see if there's any alum who was at that grad school. Same with geography. If you want to move to Boston, type Boston in there. So this feature alone is an excellent way to start your job search, to start your grad school search by networking and reaching out with others. There's no limit to the amount of groups you can join. You can join 400 if you want to. The more groups you join, the more access you have to the members of the group. So feel free to join groups in areas that may not relate. There's probably a grocery store manager group. So any finite area or large area, I would join as many groups as you are comfortable with. The features we went over. The next feature of LinkedIn is jobs. Employers love to put jobs on LinkedIn because it's free. They don't have to pay money for LinkedIn. So this is a great resource to do job hunting in general. If you click on this job tab up here, one of the first things you'll find on this page, it says jobs you may be interested in. LinkedIn takes my profile, the information I have, and automatically pulls current jobs that they think based on my profile I would be interested in. So without even me searching, boom, right here is some jobs from LinkedIn. But I can search if I want to. I could type in here politics, or a certain company name, or a geographical area, and boom, up here 187 came up. You can save these jobs, you can save your search, you can refine this even further through an advanced search feature. You could type in politics and Florida and see what jobs LinkedIn has that are in that area. Okay, I think all this we already went through. Okay, another tab on LinkedIn is companies. The one thing that I would recommend doing, if there are certain companies that you are targeting, that you know you want to work for, that you're interested in learning more about, you can actually follow them on LinkedIn. And what that means is you will get an email anytime they post something. So if they post a new job, if they post an update about their company, you will get that through your email. That's a great way to gain more information about them. You can see when you look at a company's LinkedIn page if there's anyone that went to Messiah College that works for that company, and then you can send them a message through LinkedIn. You never, when you contact anyone for networking, want to say something like, "Hi, can you give me a job at your company?" Because that's not networking, that's kind of pestering. Networking is all about connecting and building relationships. Saying things like, "Your company really interests me, can you tell me more about it?" Or, "How did you get a job with your company?" Or, what are 3 things make this job really appealing to you? Those are great networking questions. And finally, you can see if there's any job openings through the company page of LinkedIn. So let's go to that real quick and I'll show you. And again, I know I'm flying through this, but I'm trying to get all this information in. So clicking on the company tab here, and let's search for one that you may be interested in. I did it. So say you're interested in this particular employer. Click on that, the follow box comes up. You can follow the company. All you do is click on that, automatically you're a company follower. You can see an overview of what they do. Right here I can tell that there's 20 people in my LinkedIn network that work at the Department of State, and there's 3 people that I graduated with from Messiah that work there. So I can connect with them. If they had any jobs open, it would be a tab here that says careers, and I could click on that and see the jobs that are open through there. If you're thinking of going to grad school, many graduate schools have company pages on LinkedIn. I think that LinkedIn eventually is going to change and add a tab that, higher education, because a lot of graduate schools have pages on LinkedIn much like a company does. And it's a great idea to follow your graduate school on LinkedIn to see what other maybe Messiah alums have gone to that graduate school. So you can use LinkedIn not only to give you information about certain employers, but also certain graduate schools that you're interested in. We talked about this briefly, but just to end here, some networking etiquette. Never ask for a job when you're using LinkedIn. Networking is all about relationship building. If you're unsure of what questions you could ask or how to go about starting networking, I would use those networking resources on our webpage that I showed you, or just come in and talk to us, make an appointment about networking. A great piece of advice is to ask for an informational interview. That's where you actually sit down and ask them these questions, so you're moving your connection from the virtual world to the real world. You could even do this over Skype if someone's in France or even farther away. And anytime you have a connection that you make and you gain information from, send them a thank you letter, like a snail mail thank you letter. That can go a long way into positioning yourself to get a job. And keep all your postings to them professional in nature. You never want to complain about Messiah or a certain employer or anything online. You don't know who can see that. Once it's online, it's always there. So all of your postings, LinkedIn or anywhere in general, keep them professional and upbeat in nature.